Hello and welcome to the water purification part 1 section of your water module. This part 2 will be gone over by my partner. More specific stuff will be in that. Today I'll just be giving you an overview. Some stuff, a lot of it's common sense. A lot of it is things you should know, will know, or already know. So let's just get into it. First of all, how is water used? Well, there's the two places that you need to know where it's used, and that's at home and in industry. You should know how water's used in your homes. You do it every day. You do drinking, washing, cooking, cleaning, the regular stuff, things you do every day, the common stuff. Water is used in it. And then in industry, so it can be used as a coolant to cool things off, or it can be used to react with certain stuff. So if you're working with water as a chemist, you can use it as part of reactions. Untreated water. Now, this is obviously water that hasn't gone through the treatment process, hasn't gone through the purification process of being able to be used in your homes or in industry. Now, these things have things dissolved in them, like dissolved ions, which get dissolved in the water by being transported, for instance, through riverbanks, down mountains, etc. You can see all the sodium, the calciums, you can see them on screen. Or dissolved gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. They can also come from microorganisms which are respirating under the water. That's where the carbon dioxide comes in. But microorganisms can also cause diseases, because obviously you've got these microorganisms in your water. If you drink them, they can make you very sick. And pollutants, now these typically get into the water supply with farmers putting fertilizers, pesticides on their crops, and the crops can either be close to a water source, or it could rain, and the rain would cause the pesticides to flow all the way to the lovely water, where if you drink it, it will make you ill. But good thing the water is treated before it gets to you, so no need to worry about that. Now, water is used obviously been increasing. The population's been increasing. The water usage has increased over the past 100 years, quite a lot, if you look at the graph. One thing I will say is get used to being able to talk about graphs. So obviously you can see at the end exponential. I won't go over that now, but I will say get used to being able to look at a graph and know what to say about it, etc. So you can see the world, obviously quite high. Asia's close behind, obviously, because the higher percentage of the population lives there. So obviously it's going to be a lot. So reducing water. Now, how can we reduce water to make sure there's an even share of water around the world, so we don't have a situation like this? First off, take shorter showers. A lot of these are going to be common sense. Sorry, just clearing my throat a bit there. Yeah, so a lot of these are going to be common sense. So you can take shorter showers, reuse bath and sink water. Now, I didn't think about this till I was doing research. Watering plants. Plants are not going to be fussy about their water unless they're obviously certain soaps and stuff. Just be careful with those. You don't want to kill your plants. But apart from that, they're not going to be picky about certain dirty waters. So don't worry about that. Make sure your washing machine, dishwashers are full before using. So just make sure you're pretty much using less water. There's the common sense bit here. Just make sure you're doing less, so you don't have to keep washing your dishes. Make sure taps aren't leaking or on when you're using them. A short flush setting, that's obviously just a smaller flush, so it obviously doesn't use more water. In the winter, obviously the pipes are going to get cold. All they're going to want to do is break, so make sure you reinforce them. Obviously, I don't think a lot of you are owning homes at the moment. So just make sure when you're older to do this. Also, when you're older, make sure you install a water meter. It'll save you a lot of money and save a lot of water in the process. It keeps track of how much water you're using and how much you're spending as well. Now, abstracting water. This is where we obviously get water out for using. This is where we send it to the treatment center for us to use in industry and at home. We can pump water from the underground. We can build dams or create reservoirs. We can take water from rivers or lakes. We can collect rainwater. This one typically is the slowest. We can do a process called desalination, which is where you take the salt away from seawater. But a lot of these can be very ethically iffy, like certain things like creating reservoirs. They can be quite environmentally destructive. They can destroy. There's a famous story about a place called Capel Celyn. If you Google Google remember Tryweryn, I can't remember how to spell it, so good luck with that. It's a Welsh town. That's quite a famous story about a town that got drowned to make a reservoir. It's very interesting. I would highly suggest you look that up. You also have obviously pumping water from the underground. Of course, that's going to be destructive. Taking waters from rivers and lakes and desalination, you're taking water from ecosystems, so it could be quite harmful for the wildlife living there. Now, treating water. This is quite an interesting process, actually. I remember learning it when I was doing my GCSEs, and I thought it was quite interesting. But also, I was able to go and see this process actually happen. I was lucky enough that COVID wasn't happening when I was doing. I was lucky enough that COVID wasn't happening when I was doing my GCSE, so I was lucky to go on a lot of trips to be able to see this process happen, and it was very interesting. We have the water coming in, we have the coarse filter, which filters out a lot of the big chunks, a lot of the big bits, just the rubbish. If there's any, just big, disgusting bits that you don't want in the water that gets stuck in the coarse filter. Then you have the sedimentation tank, which is where the water becomes still, or the heavy bits tend to fall to the bottom. Oh, I should probably explain that the coarse filters for stuff that typically floats. So yeah, so that gets rid of the big chunks that float. This gets rid of the big chunks that don't. Then it comes through here, goes through the fine filter. That gets rid of all the smaller micro stuff that you don't typically see, but obviously is there. So it's just getting rid of all the finer rubbish stuff. Then this is where the chlorine's added. You should probably know about chlorine being added to water by now. But this is used to sterilize the water, get rid of all the nasty microorganisms and stuff. Then it comes back here and gets stored in a tank and sent on its way. Now, typically, in certain places like America, they add fluorine. They do a process called fluorinization, which is add fluorine to the water. It's used for dental health, but I won't go into that now. That's for the other presentation. So for now, I'll say hopefully this helped, and enjoy your next class.